Oh my God. Jesus, I thought you were dead.
Aaron, you played Far Cry New Dawn last week, and you've had some pretty positive opinions on it so far, but it is a little bit different than previous Far Cry games, right?
Yeah, one of the really interesting things about Far Cry New Dawn is this time around, Ubi's not only like acknowledging it's the same map. I remember last time there was some controversy over people discovering that Primal was on the same map, but this game is actually written to exist on the same map. So if you got to the end of Far Cry 5, some bad things happened to the world. Spoilers. And that kind of set up this, I don't know what it is. I guess it's a sequel.
Yeah, different main character though, right?
Totally.
And it's same deal where you create your own character again, right?
Yeah, so you start fresh. The overarching story is basically a bunch of people got together and they made a new town called Prosperity. And the highwaymen show up and just mess up their day in typical Mad Max fashion. There's this guy traveling up and down the coast named Thomas Rush who's teaching communities how to defend themselves, and you're part of his security detail. You get spit out into the world when his train gets ambushed, and then it's your job in typical fashion to mess up and get Prosperity back up in action. Now, how that actually works is new. There's a lot of new elements to the game that are RPG inspired. And for the first time, you're shooting highwaymen and other bad guys in Far Cry, and numbers are popping out of their head Borderlands style.
So yeah, that does kind of sound like a shooter RPG.
Now, the interesting bit about this is the mechanics seem like a good solution to longevity in the games. Previous Far Cry games, you kind of go around, you clear all the outposts, and usually the only thing you can do at that point is just reset the outpost and do it again. So the RPG systems in Far Cry New Dawn they're basically this. You take an outpost and you can then reclaim the resources from that outpost or just leave it. If you reclaim the resources, then the highwaymen move back into that outpost and they are tougher. They're a higher level enemy. It's something like 1 through 4 or 1 through 5. There's like a Gold King level enemy that's the toughest. There's a crafting system in Prosperity that is the equivalent to that. So you start off with like gray weapons and you go to purple weapons and then you eventually end up at gold weapons. I think it's again like 1 through 4.
Now, are there random loot drops or is it only based on crafting?
It seems to be mostly based on crafting, but in the same vein as Far Cry 5, you can pick up an enemy weapon and suddenly it's in your inventory to have.
Okay.
So it's cool. I much prefer that system where you can pick up and keep weapons. But you're definitely going to have to craft. So, for example, we hit an outpost at level 1. We played solo and co-op, and it was easy. We just breezed through it. And then we tried to go back to that outpost at level 2 and couldn't do it. Like, you can't execute people. They take a lot more bullets to kill.
Okay, so it's like similar to Assassin's Creed where you can't stealth assassinate unless you're at a certain level. Like, how does that work? Does your blade, do you get a higher level knife or something like that?
In the unlock tree in Far Cry, there's always been just higher levels of assassinations. So you get
like ones with body armor. But I'm curious, like, so just a standard dude, like if you go up to him and take him out, but he's like a level 2 and you're a level 1, will you not be able to?
Completely, yeah.
Oh, okay.
I climbed a tower to stealth assassinate one of their spotters, and I just couldn't do it.
He just took it and turned around. There he is.
It's cool because the outposts get harder. Now, every time you scavenge an outpost, you get the resource ethanol, and that lets you go on expeditions around. So there's a helicopter pilot, and you buy expeditions from him. Those expeditions actually also get progressively harder the more times you do them. One thing that makes this different from, say, Primal, which took place on the same map, is that these expeditions let you go to other places in the country and do these. They're instances, but interesting levels. Like one was an aircraft carrier and the other was a dam.
Shit! Someone's stealing our stuff! Move!
So these systems feed on themselves. Like the game gets tougher, you craft better weapons, which like the weapons look cooler too as they get better. Some of the high-level weapons they're kind of funny because they're very Mad Max, but had a screwdriver attached to the front. Like, they look beat up and taped together. The style, the art style is really cool. Something I'm a bit concerned about, though, is, and we'll see how this plays out, because I didn't see this in the preview event, but I noticed the Uplay points allow you to unlock a gold tier shotgun, and some of the pre-order bonuses let you get gold tier weapons and vehicles. And I don't know what that'll do to the difficulty of the game. Like, it might break the difficulty if you just start with a gold tier weapon.
Yeah, that's a good point. I guess we'll have to find out when it comes out. How do the vehicles look? Are there lots of sort of Mad Max post-apocalyptic looking vehicles around too that you can pilot and drive?
Yeah, the highwaymen drive around in pretty beat up vehicles, and the ones that you can craft also, and again, like, there's a tiered crafting system for vehicles also. They get progressively more beat up and cool looking. But to your point with vehicles and how this game recognizes that you're coming back to the same place over and over again. So if you remember in Far Cry 5, you fly Nick Rye's airplane for the first time, and you do his mission.
Yeah.
So you can find Nick again in this game, and actually a large portion of this game is based around his family, particularly the daughter that you delivered at the end of Far Cry 5.
Yeah, I think that was an optional quest too. Like, I don't think everyone had to do that if they didn't want to.
Which, if you haven't done it, you should go back and do that mission, because it'll give you a much larger attachment to this world, particularly because she's such a main character in it. So you can find Nick again, and you mirror the same mission with his airplane, but his airplane doesn't have any wings this time because it's just the beat up apocalypse, right?
Yeah.
So you do a similar mission, but it's all just a pontoon boat aircraft on the ground shooting enemies. So New Dawn does a really fun job of taking you back to the same places all over again, but giving you a new perspective on those places.
You lose something, darling? Hey, baby. Hey, you know, if you're busy, I could always come back. No?
What about hired guns? That was a pretty big thing in Far Cry 5. Is that back?
Hired guns are back. There are new ones. Some of them are similar to Far Cry 5. For example, we did a mission to rescue Timber, who was basically the same as Boomer. It was
he's
like
cuter.
His mission will give you a little bit of feels because you're trying to figure out what he's doing the whole time.
Okay.
And then when you find out what he wants you to do, he's a good doggy, that dog. There's also Horatio, who's a boar. We didn't see him, but did loves me some Cheeseburger the bear.
Oh, is he back?
From Far Cry 5. We didn't see him. I think the boar is
Is it going to be like the new cheeseburger?
the new cheeseburger.
Maybe hamburger?
Yeah.
Anything else you want to add about your time with Far Cry New Dawn?
It's so the base game's not full price. It's more Far Cry. You know, talking to some of the other people in the office who didn't like Far Cry 5 as much, I don't think there's anything here that if you didn't like Far Cry 5 that would make you suddenly like it. But if you did like Far Cry 5 like I did and you're attached to the characters, this is a great continuation of those characters. I ran into he's on the poster art, so this is not a spoiler, but I ran into the father at one point. The way that they ended Far Cry 5 really makes you wonder what they could possibly be doing next, and this is that they just went straight into the post-apocalypse. And honestly, it's got the humor of Far Cry. One of the characters at the event, his name was Little Effer, which we would have to bleep out if we started talking about him.
Yeah.
But the writing's very mature. You know, if you deliver the baby in Far Cry 5, you're instantly attached to the characters. We'll see how the crafting system plays out. It seems like a good way to make the outposts more interesting and last longer. So yeah, overall, I think if you liked Far Cry 5, this is kind of an easy yes.
Yeah.
And it's a good continuation of that story.
Yeah, it was interesting because after I got to the end of Far Cry 5, and a lot of people got to the end of Far Cry 5, they're like, well, they're obviously going to go to Apocalypse, but I don't think anyone expected it to be this soon. So that's pretty neat, especially if you enjoyed it, because that came out, less than a year ago now. And this one comes out February 15th on Xbox, PlayStation 4, and PC. And for more on that game, make sure to stay tuned to GameSpot.